Are you a leader that always thinks that the sky is falling? Well, guess what? You might be making a huge mistake. Today's episode of Lessons from the Tank, I have Jessica from Peekaboo Ice Cream, and she talks about how important optimism is when leading a team. This is a great episode, and if you lead any sort of team, you're going to get some great tips from this. Enjoy. Jessica, thank you so much for being part of the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We're gonna have some fun today. You're in Miami. It's sunny and nice and all that stuff down there, right?
No work gets done here in Miami.
Like you look happier than people that are from the north. So
I just finished rollerblading on the beach, so no, just
so you were on Shark Tank not that long ago, right? Season 12, episode 8, and Peekaboo Ice Cream. Talk to us about Peekaboo Ice Cream.
Peekaboo ice cream is the way you wish you could have eaten veggies your entire life. You know, how, like as a kid, you invent these things in your head. Well, I'm bringing that to you as an adult. It's ice cream, indulgent, delicious ice cream with hidden veggies. So it's literally the most delicious way to eat your veggies. It's certified organic, and you cannot taste the veggies. So it's just delicious vanilla, cotton candy, strawberry, whatever. And each flavor is paired with a different vegetable. So cotton candy has beets, vanilla has zucchini, mint chip has spinach, and yada yada.
So there has to be a story behind this because I just can't imagine that you like grind some broccoli up and put it into ice cream for no reason at all. Is there some background there?
Well, you have kids, so I know
I
that you
do.
know the answer to this.
Yes.
Anyone with kids or an aversion of veggies is like, what's the best way? Mostly, I mean, for me, it was a pain point. I have three little ones. And when my oldest was old enough to start rejecting veggies, which is about when they're two, and they're strong enough to throw their veggies like on the floor and cover themselves in them, like it's that like little window of time where they're less cute, more messy, and really, learning how to say no. So, and I opened up an ice cream shop here in Surfside 13 years ago in Miami Beach. And I was making ice cream all day long, coming home and just having this incessant battle with my little toddler, um, thinking like there's got to be a better way to deliver veggies. And so why couldn't I use ice cream as a vehicle to deliver those veggies? So I started tinkering, and I would like sneak the veggies into my ice cream at my ice cream shop called Serendipity. And little by little, like the mint chip, which was white because we don't use artificial colors or flavors, started to get more and more green from the spinach. And the customers were like, wait a second, what's happening here? And then, I got to the point where my daughter and the customers tasted something funny. And that's when I knew, scale back the veggies. We went a little too far. But some of the taste testing and like iterations were disasters. Like one flavor had cabbage. So you can imagine the smell of cabbage in an ice cream shop is like horrible. Turnips, not a great smell. If it overpowers, the waffle cones, like no go.
So I love there has to be a better way to blank. I mean that seems to be kind of universal with a lot of Shark Tank companies. We a lot of especially the ones that come on and capture people's attention. It's exactly that. Like there has to be something like this is terrible. So let's try another way. And I love the fact that you worked into something that you were already doing, and had that ability to experiment, I guess is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to hedge, as like as an entrepreneur, I think the smartest way to get into it is to not quit your day job and just, hustle on the side until you have something viable, some proven product market fit. So yeah, it was easy. I was sort of set up already with ice cream that like it was just a very seamless transition and experiment. But before that, I was practicing law. So until I knew that the ice cream shop was viable, I didn't stop practicing law. So it's like always, one foot in, one foot to the next one.
So you were a lawyer and then you started selling ice cream. So which
People are happier when they're eating ice cream.
that's what I was
When
thinking.
we're suing them.
Like the clientele had to change dramatically there.
But it was like all of a sudden I got like really positive reviews.
So what is the best flavor and what was the so you mentioned a couple bad ones, but what was like the absolute worst? Like where you're like, this is gross. Like what is the
Honestly, well, I never combined the cabbage one just because the smell was just so terrible. It never actually made it into the ice cream. Turnip. Originally, I thought vanilla turnip because turnip is like white.
Mhm.
How bad could it be? Like it's terrible.
It's
It's
like
really, really
bitter. Isn't
it's
turnips bitter?
terrible.
It's
I did a lot of research and I guess like you could prepare it in a way that it's more mild flavored, but if it's like too complicated, like you don't want that kind of supply chain nightmare anyway. Um, so turnip was a fail. I thought originally it was strawberry rhubarb, which is actually a very good flavor, but rhubarb is very seasonal and hard to source. But originally it was vanilla turnip. So I had married chocolate with the cauliflower. And then when turnip was out of the game, I was like, well, my cauliflower already has a partner. Like, I need something white. What am I going to mix with vanilla? So I settled on zucchini.
zucchini. And what is is that the most popular? Is your vanilla zucchini the most popular?
It's the most, it's actually mint chip is wildly by far the most popular.
And what's in the mint chip?
There's 2 cups of spinach in every container.
Spinach. No
And
kidding.
like 12 cups of chocolate chips. It's like chocolate chips with a side of mint ice cream. But that's the most popular. And then I'd say my personal favorite is the strawberry with hidden carrots. But they're all pretty sort of even.
Yeah, strawberry carrot doesn't sound bad. Uh,
It's really good.
Yeah.
And I'm not a strawberry ice cream eater. But our Peekaboo strawberry is the best.
So, all right. So you have this great idea. You have this ice cream shop. You have this great idea, and then Shark Tank. So talk to us a little bit about that.
It's fun. Like you're probably this. I mean, like I've been watching Shark Tank since season one. I'm obsessed with it, and like never in a million years did I think I'd be on Shark Tank. But I signed up. They were having an open call here
Hmm.
in Miami, and I was like, what the hell? I'll get a ticket, stand in line, whatever. In 100 degrees with ice cream. And then 2 days before, I got a cold call from someone who said they were casting at Shark Tank, and I was like, oh, they must have seen me on the list, and like they just want to vet or whatever. So I was like, "Oh, I'll see you in a couple." I'm so dumb. I'm like, "I'll see you in a couple days." Like in line, like you'll recognize me among the like 10,000 people. And the casting director was like, "No, no, no, don't. That's for like chumps. No offense, but she's like, "No, no, no. We sort of found you. We'd like you to apply, but if you apply and move through, like you don't have to go wait in line anymore." So that was sort of like the beginning of sort of like how I started the process. And then of course there's like 25 steps. Every step of the way you can get dropped
Oh
or
yeah.
no. And so you're always like, how did I do? Am I moving forward? But that was sort of the beginning of the process.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, through the experience and of course through the podcast. And everybody talks about that anxiety of did I make it another week
Yeah.
through the Shark Tank process. For those of you that are listening, I can tell you Shark Tank, amazing experience, but probably I will probably never go through more stress than than I went through that experience. I don't know if you feel the same.
100%, because also like so many parts of it, like you want to get to the filming point. So everything is like very high anxiety to get to filming. And then you're like, oh, I don't know if I can curse or not, but like, oh, you know, now I've like, you can't predict what happens. Like you can look like a complete idiot,
Hmm.
through like either a fault of your own or no fault, but depending on editing, and then it's like, well, will I air? So like every step of the way, and then if I air again, am I going to look like an idiot? So like until you get to the point where you air and you've reviewed it and you're like, okay, I didn't embarrass my family or myself, okay, that was a success. But it's like a long process until you can breathe easily.
It is. We did a big viewing party. We rented out a local theater, and so there's like 300 of my closest friends and family, that type of thing. But people don't realize you don't get to see any of the
No, that
footage.
that's a lot of confidence. I would not have done that.
I'm sitting in the front row. I'm like, I have no idea what this is going to look like, you
Right,
know. So, like, did I say something stupid? I was in there for a
right.
long time. I am sure I said something stupid.
Like, I don't remember. Right, right. No, I wouldn't have done it. I was just immediate family, you know,
Yeah,
to avoid embarrassment.
I spoke with somebody in another podcast, and they, of course, they aired during COVID, so they had to do everything, via Zoom. I'm like, "Man, that would have been a lot less stress than I went through." But so
That's
so talk about Shark Tank. So how did it go for you?
So, everyone has a different experience, but for
Yep.
me, it was funny because I went with my someone on my marketing team because
Mhm.
my we had an event in Toronto the very next day after filming. So like my husband took the kids to Toronto, and so I'm waiting in a trailer. So, like you prep, but you can only watch so many Shark Tank episodes, and then you ship your whole set. You hope
Yep.
it arrives. Then when you get there, you hope you know how to build it and put it together because like nobody's there to really help you. Um, and of course, my marketing person that I took had like a bad back and doesn't know how to use a screwdriver. I was like, fantastic. You didn't tell me this before you came with me. So you have to build a whole set, and then we're waiting in the trailer the whole day. And I had to leave because the next morning, that night, I was taking the red eye from LA to Toronto, and it's like 6 o'clock, and I'm nervous the whole day because there's nothing to do. You're just chilling with like, other people in different trailers. You don't really want to talk to them and, freak yourself out. And at the end of the filming day, it was like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, hey, nobody's called me yet. I'm still here. Hey, what's up? And they're like, hey, you're gonna have to rebook your ticket. You're probably gonna, if you get to film, it'll be tomorrow because we're done for the
Oh,
day.
wow.
And I was like, well, I got a flight. It's like a one-way ticket, like it was the last flight out. I have a wedding. I can't. And they're like, well, that's fantastic for you. It is what it is. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep. And they're like, no, you can't leave till we tell you you can leave. You just got to hang out on the lot or whatever. So at that point, I mean, the whole point of my sort of little anecdote is I wasn't even nervous anymore. I was like, it was like a roller coaster of emotions. I was like sad, I was upset. I was like anything other than nervous to meet the sharks. And then like an hour later, they come banging on my door, like, if you can hair and makeup like in 30 seconds, we'll push you out there. And I was like, well, are they sharks angry? Because if they finished filming, I also don't want
Yeah, they're, like,
to.
hungry, like
Like, they're hungry, they're tired, they've been filming probably for 14 hours. Don't put me out there, like, if they're in a bad mood. And they're like, no, 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 they're fine. Just, hair and makeup and just, get out there. So like my leg was shaking. It was like very unexpected. So I think it was to my benefit only because I got out of my own head,
Mhm.
and it was more fun at that point. I was like, I was gonna get to the wedding, I was gonna get it done, I like got dressed, hair and makeup, and did my little thing. So I think it was more like of an adventure that way than like life or death, like my business needs this, I cannot fail kind of
Right.
mental state.
Yeah, again, you had an established business, so it wasn't like you needed to be, and that's one of the things, a lot of the Shark Tank companies do come on and they're like, if I don't get something here, we're done. We're closing the doors, and that's man, I can't imagine that stress on top of the other stress that was going on just from being there. So,
That's always a very, I mean, sharks or no sharks, it's a very hard spot to be in where you're like end of the road or like between a rock and a hard place. I've been there in so many different versions of that. Like, I feel like probably everyone in business has been where they're like, this is the moment, like sink or swim. Tomorrow's the end, like
right.
it's literally every day. That was the 9 o'clock hour today. Now I've moved on. But to be there like on such a public platform and all your emotions, like it breaks my heart. Like when some of these brands, like in their mind, they're like, this is my only chance. When everyone watching, or if you take a step back, or if you've been there, you're like, no, tomorrow's another day. Everything changes. Today is terrible, but everything changes. The sharks are not your answer. It's hard to watch. I hate those because like I feel heavy for those brands that really think that that's their 10 minutes to survive, you know?
Yeah, and as entrepreneurs, you almost have that. I don't want to say daily because that sounds so bad, but there are some times where that is daily, where you're like, we're not making it tomorrow. Like again, all the craziness that the world's going through, whether it's raw materials or employees or whatever. There's been times where, I've laid my head down. I'm like, I don't know what happens tomorrow. I have no idea. And I have to assume that you're going through that just like everybody else.
All the time, all the time. You gotta be so, dumb to keep going. No, you have to be so optimistic, naive, resilient, you know, because yeah, it's always something, and it depends on how big of a deal you make out of it or not. It's always something. You just gotta face it, make a quick decision, and move on. But it's hard. It makes for great TV for Shark Tank for
Oh,
sure.
of course it does.
But like as entrepreneurs, you see someone like that, and you're like, ugh, it's a terrible spot to be in.
So, speaking of resilience and things like, you seem like a very, very positive person. Is this how you are in your business too? I mean, are you an
I'm not even on
optimistic
drugs.
person?
No, yeah. I honestly, if my nature is just very happy, like, and I'm a happy person. I think that's like probably my only good quality. No, but I mean, because so many things happen and it could get very, stressful and depressing. But like, if you're alive, right? That's good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
my grandfather used to say, if you wake up looking at the green side of the grass, you're in good shape, right?
That's funny. My grandpa used to say even more depressing. He used to be like, "No news is good news." I'm like, okay.
So
Grandpa.
let's talk about some of the lessons that you may have learned through your experience. Hey, this is lessons from the tank, so we want to try to give any of our listeners, some little nuggets of wisdom. I mean, first of all, just talking about being optimistic and I think that's a trait that a lot of entrepreneurs don't embody, and I think that it actually can serve them really, really well, especially when they have teams and larger teams, as they get bigger, because people take their cues off of their leaders. And if you think the sky is falling, trust me, everybody else really does. They're ducking
They're
for
probably
cover.
applying to the next job. Forget it. They're not even like waiting for you to finish that sentence. They're like on, like indeed.com. Um, so I mean, lessons from the tank, a couple different things. First of all, I would say you have to be memorable, as I'm sure you know, right? Like you can't, so whether that's like an insane valuation, one direction or another, I would say it probably is important to go with a lower ask.
Hmm.
So instead of going for like a really big ask, unless you really don't want a deal, because the sharks won't or can't go lower. So if you go in asking for 500,000 or 2 million, that's the baseline. Um,
I had no idea about that, by the way. I had watched the show for years and years and years, and it wasn't until we actually talked to the business manager that they have on staff, and he's like, "Hey, be careful what you're asking for because the sharks can't go lower." I'm like, "What do you mean they can't go lower?" Like, I've seen them go lower. They're like, "Nope. Like they will never, like whatever your cash is, they can go higher, but they can never go lower." Um,
It's
so
a very important consideration, I think, for anybody, that has the wonderful opportunity to be on Shark Tank. Like, just be very deliberate about that. You can always have like a $20 million valuation with $100,000 ask and then negotiate the valuation up and down. But you can't go in with a $2 million ask unless you think you're going to get that or walk out empty handed. So I think that's a really important, for me, I thought it was important.
mhm.
Also, I don't know, it's hard because you know, y- it's so because you don't know what they're gonna say, right? So, like, if you have a food you have to also be really confident in your product. But I do know a brand actually that the Sharks tore apart taste wise, and they've gone on to be wildly successful. So, I wouldn't even say like even if you go in and make a fool out of yourself, or the Sharks don't dig your product, that's not the end of the world either, which I think is also an important lesson. It's just really great visibility and brand awareness. Ideally, they're gonna like the product. But also just really have your like if you're make sure that you have direct to consumer capacity and capabilities. Like it's a huge waste of an opportunity if you think you're going to go on Shark Tank and then people are going to run to the store to buy your product. Like it's not, it'll happen over time, but there's not that kind of immediate impact that you would have if you have like a Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever store that you can ship immediately.
Right. So how have things been since the show for you guys? I mean, I have to imagine, you know, it's vegetables and ice cream. I mean, come on, if it tastes good, like, people are going to buy it. But I mean, have things gone well?
They've gone well. It's funny because, like it's also hard to ship ice cream. So like I think the products that do really well are like consumer goods,
Right.
less so food. Because I know for myself when I've seen food brands on there, I'm like, I would totally love to try it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, next time I go to Whole Foods or Publix or whatever. And like the buying cycle is just way longer. It's not like click, add to cart, I'm done, which I have done with a sippy cup and a apron, like things I still have in my house that I
Yep.
bought from Shark Tank, season one, two, three, four, five. Um, so so it wasn't like I didn't have it's not like I had like $500,000 worth of sales within 24 hours. I mean, it was like a huge jump and like really, really awesome. But for me, what's been the most validating is then like I'll do sampling events at Whole Foods where Peekaboo Ice Cream is for sale. And I would say at least 30% of the people, random people that walk up, and I'm wearing a mask, of course, are like, oh, I saw this somewhere. Like either they can't place it or they immediately remember,
Mhm.
which is crazy because unless you're in the wild, you don't realize that people, bodies, consumers actually watch the show. I mean, you know that 5 million people watched it, but where are those people, you know?
Right.
But seeing them face to face, so I'll have my mask and I'm like, "Oh, how did she do?" Like, because they don't know it's me really, and so, like, I wait for them to be like, "Oh, she was terrible," or, "Oh, it was really good," like, but if they realize it's me, like, sometimes they'll wanna take pictures, but really long answer, but it's an amazing like even retailers, we're in brick and mortar supermarkets. So it's a really amazing bonus to be able to say to a retailer, hey, you've maybe never heard of Peekaboo ice cream, and maybe we're only 2.5 years old, but 5 million more people have heard of my brand than they have of like the startup next to me on the shelf.
Right.
So like it's a huge value add for retailers. And it's like a great foot in the door. So I think, some benefits are tangible and then which is obviously e-commerce, and then others, are less so, but still very effective.
Yeah, the name recognition, stuff like that is certainly important. I mean, even even from our side, SEO, stuff like that, linking back to Shark Tank and stuff is big. It really is.
It's huge. Even like we'll do A/B testing with social media ads, and Shark Tank. Even if the copy or the creative is really ugly, like a terrible photo with a terrible illustration, uh, outperforms head and shoulders above like the cutest little blonde kid with chocolate ice cream all over his face,
Uh-huh.
or like a puppy licking like Shark Tank outperforms everything. So just people, it's that street cred, that awareness, that really does help with everything. You're right, SEO, digital marketing, everything.
So what's next for you and your company and your ice cream store? Like what would I mean, it sounds like you're always kind of onto more and bigger and better. Is that
Yeah, so many things that, we want to launch into different sort of formats, like novelty, single serve novelty size, some
that's neat?
non-dairy flavors. We got some really cute ideas in the pipeline. Um, what else? And just really sort of leaning into the supermarkets where we're in now, like the Bristol Farms, Earth Fare, Whole Foods, like the natural and organic, really strong partner retailer. Um, to just do really, really, really well instead of just expanding really huge nationwide. Um, so that's it. Hoping that like people reemerge from their homes, especially on the West Coast. West Coasters, people who are still like holed up, which I get, no, not dismissing anything, but like it's hard to market
Right.
or do events like when like, especially California is really, really different than Florida. Um, so, it'd be nice for everyone to be sort of feel safe out there, protected, and sort of start, getting a little bit closer to normal.
Yeah, I can't wait till normal comes back.
Yeah,
Whatever normal looks like in the future.
like can you imagine being at a concert? Like,
Oh,
I mean,
I
part of me cringes a little bit, like I don't want to breathe bad breath. I don't want to breathe cold virus. Like I don't want to, like it's more than COVID. Like I don't want anything you're serving up. I don't want. But having said that, it's nice to just really be among people and trade shows and like, What's your experience been like with through COVID, after Shark Tank?
It's been well, so we aired in January, and then COVID hit in March. So it was, it was just crazy timing, where our sales went through the roof, and we sell mainly wholesale to window manufacturers. So the window industry, the building trade industry took off through COVID. We're having like banner years as an industry, and we're like, what is going on here? You're like, everybody thought that the world was shutting down, and our industry just went through the roof. So,
Insane. How about supply chain though? Are you having supply chain
oh,
nightmares?
absolutely, yeah. Between employees, again, these are problems I never thought I would have.
You can't win. You can't win.
Nope. So I thought it was gonna be, oh, getting sales up to the numbers that we thought. Now it's like, my operations manager's like, "Hey, any chance you could slow down?" Like, that
Yeah,
would be great because we're not sure we have enough material coming in over the next but
that's
it's
insane.
just those challenges. You just have to deal with them. And you have to, from us, we have to keep our chin up. We have the "we live to fight another day" type of mentality. Like, all right, look, everything's good today, everything's good next week. Like, that's a win. Like, we take them for what we
Totally.
can.
Totally. And if you feel like you're adding to this planet, and adding in some way, like I feel like that's reward and validation enough. The financial success is awesome, buying a yacht is awesome. All that is great, but I feel like that's not typically what drives entrepreneurs, or, at least me. It's like it's feeling that you're having some kind of impact.
Hmm.
And that you're making people happy in whatever it is, like in their home, feel safer in their homes, or getting more veggies, or what it's so much more. And so I think that helps sort of smooth out the bumps, because you're like, okay, like, the consumer doesn't care about supply chain problems. They care that maybe they don't have the product in hand, but if they believe in the mission and they believe in the brand and they believe in you, maybe they can, they'll be a little more patient, they'll overcome, they'll be a little more understanding, and maybe, like, I think, buy in more to the dream,
Yeah.
or
And
they could get pissed.
yeah, it,
There's those people too.
it's really interesting, even going to restaurants. We're in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania's opened up quite a bit, so you can go to restaurants and stuff. And it seems like there's two consumers out there right now, right? There's the ones that are like, we understand we're going to a restaurant that is short staffed, and it's not the waitress's problem, it's not the cook's problem, anything like that. It's just, and we're going to be patient. So if it takes 2 hours to get a meal, we understand that. Then you have the people that are, man, I hope none of
There's
these people
such
are, they're just idiots, right? Like, they're going out like this poor girl who is like 18 years old, has like 14 tables. Of course she's behind. Of course it's taking a long time. And you just have to say, you have to understand the state of the world right now. And if you don't, you're just going to set yourself up to be miserable for the next, seems like the next year, however long this
totally.
takes.
Totally. And that's why, empathy is so important. But also, yeah, like for your own self, if you're high stress or high, anger or whatever, it's bad for you, like just don't go out, just order in, because it's a really tough situation, especially here in Miami. I went out to dinner last weekend with a couple other moms and like 12 kids, and it was a recipe for disaster on a good day with full staff and a competent kitchen team, like but it was like a disaster. It was a disaster. And I feel for the restaurants because they're not paying rent,
Right.
and so they're not going to comp a dinner even though everything went wrong, outside of being short staffed. So it's just it's there's a lot of terrible things, like a lot of elements are just not working, and you have to be really, really patient, or just not go out.
Yeah, and we even have, we have 150 employees. Even understanding the things that they're going through is and having empathy. Yes, we want everybody to show up, but guess what? If a daycare shuts down because COVID breaks out, you're not going to fire people that
Right.
have been working
Right.
for you. Like, you have to deal with it. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, empathy is, in any situation, is important, but especially now, and especially for business leaders. I think that
Yeah.
understanding what people are going through, both their consumer as well as their employees, is just key, or you're going to drive yourself crazy. I don't know how else to say it.
Right. Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, well, this has been so much fun, Jessica. I thank you so much for being a part of this. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your wisdom. And if people want to know more about Peekaboo or know more about Serendipity, you said is your shop, right?
Yeah.
So if they're in Miami, they should come in and visit in person, right?
Yep, yep, come to Serendipity, or they can visit us online at eatpeekaboo.com or find us in stores. All complaints could be sent to, carrots at peekabooicecream.com if you don't love it. Money back guarantee. No, but I love getting people's feedback and, because it's a fun product.
So can you ship it online? Do you
Yeah, no,
do
we
you
ship with dry ice.
dry
Yeah,
ice?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic. So
yeah.
so if you want some veggie ice cream, get on eatpeekaboo.com, right?
Yep,
And order some. So,
yeah.
well, thank you so much,
Thanks so
Jessica.
much. It was really nice talking to you.
Very nice talking to you too. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Lessons from the Tank. If you got value from today's podcast, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when a new episode is posted. If you'd like to support our podcast, we encourage you to review it and share it with a friend. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.